Welcome back to More Sports with Macy. I'm your host, Macy Ray, and today we are talking about if steroids should be allowed in sports. To discuss that with me, I have Reese, Domengeaux, and Emerson, Burris. Reese, how do you feel about this?
I am so for them using steroids in sports. I think from an entertainment aspect, this would be the best thing for the game. With a society or a culture that is obsessed with stats and highlights and people being the best that they can possibly be, I think people would love to watch people on steroids just go out there and hit 80 home runs a season and absolutely go crazy.
Yeah, I think it's time to admit that steroids and genetic modifications are part of the game. Steroids help build muscle tissue and increase body mass. They don't improve agility or skill. That comes straight from genetics and time spent training, and steroids only help so much, so why not make them legal?
Well, in my opinion, steroids, especially anabolic steroids, have no place in sports, amateur or professional. And I think that all anti-steroid arguments come down to like the same principle of health. People have like affected liver, endocrine, reproductive system, tumors, heart conditions, and also pretty bad psychiatric symptoms. But if steroids did become legal in sports, do y'all think that it should be like monitored by a doctor?
I think there are ways that they could monitor it so it wouldn't get out of hand. There could be regulations and limitations on it, and of course they could be assigned doctors to look at it. I think it would really just come down to a personal preference for the athlete if they wanted to decide to do that or not. Some players would feel that it would take away from all the work that they've done, or they would feel ashamed about doing it. I just think it would be a personal issue, and there's definitely ways that they could look about monitoring and keeping it under control.
Yeah, I think it can be monitored. When you look at sicknesses like bronchitis, doctors prescribe steroids for that, and I know it's a different type of steroid, but they're still prescribing them, and I think that they could help prescribe these as well as long as it's maintained.
So you were talking about athletes should be able to choose if they want to use them or not. So do you think it would be fair if like one team had a bunch of guys completely juiced out and then another team didn't and they were to match up?
If they were to look at it that way and there was such a discrepancy, they could take the extra step and do what most people want to do or joke about doing and create a different league, a steroid league. And they could remove it from the regular league. They could choose to do that, or they could just have limits, and if the teams don't want to reach those limits, that's their choice. But that would just be something they'd have to regulate and monitor, but the steroid league would be a great thing to watch.
Going off on like a little bit of a different branch, when you look at Lance Armstrong during the Tour de France, he wasn't the only one doping up during the race, but I think he was the only one that got caught. And I mean, if players' unions are discussing allowing marijuana usage among players, are we really that far away from allowing steroids?
Well, those were some great points that y'all made. I think that's all the time we have today. Thank you, Reese, Domengeaux, and Emerson, Burris, for coming on tonight. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you tomorrow night.